check that we're going here. Look at that, we're live. All right, let me grab the link for you. Put it into the private chat if you wanted to share that out to your squad. And whenever you're ready, by the way, to present, you just go to or to share screen, you say present, and then share screen, and you pick whatever tab. I normally do entire screen, so I don't have to keep changing it back and forth. But anyways, welcome to Wolf Crypto, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Talking with Donny today. We've had him on a lot of the spaces. Dude, this guy is all over the timeline. If you're into trading at all, if you like keeping up with the markets, anything like that, you're going to want to be following Donny because he's super active. He's trading coins he's trading all the coins, but especially if you're into the memes, this is someone that you want to be keeping tabs on because he's putting out the updates. And one thing that I really like, Donny, is you put out analysis as well, and you're not scared to kind of share your thoughts on it and provide actual context towards just a chart and a number going up kind of thing that we see all over the timeline. So I really appreciate that side of things. So, dude, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. If you could just give like a quick little introduction on who you are, how you found yourself in trading, and we'll go from there.
Hey, bro, I appreciate you having me on. Really excited to start the stream with you. And it's been nice to connect with you over the last, couple of weeks doing those spaces and the stream now. Bit about myself, man. My trading journey started pretty early. I didn't get my teeth into the market until the 2020 sort of bull market start when BTC started rallying after the COVID dump. But, I'd been aware of crypto and seeing it, keeping an eye on it since like 2017 and started, dabbling away at it around 2018, just before things started like picking up. But nothing too crazy, just, tiny little investments here and there until, you see the green candles and then that's where the marketing begins. So, yeah, I started back then. I actually had a pretty successful run. Me and my brother were kind of trading together, picking coins out, sharing info, and throwing money at it. And ended up having a pretty successful run, starting with only a few grand. Ended up almost getting to 7 figures, just literally aping it from coin to coin. And like if you remember anything of the last sort of bull run, some of these old coins, man, they were pulling 100x's like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And the problem that arose near the top was that you just think it's not coming down. And when you don't have all of the technical analysis and fundamental analysis about how cycles play out, how money works, all this kind of stuff, you just don't know where you're at. And you end up round tripping most of the gains. So that's pretty much how my story started. Ended up round tripping almost all the way back below 6 figures. And then I pulled it out of fear of like, well, this stuff's really going to zero. And then as BTC kept putting in lower lows, I was like, okay, maybe it's time to scale back in. But still having no understanding, you start scaling in just a little bit too early, and they just keep going lower and lower and lower.
Right?
So, bro, it ended up being like almost nothing. And so, but that really taps something in your mind, as a person coming into this market, if you've never experienced that before, and it happens to you, like it either makes or breaks you, right? You're either going to lock in and be like, I can't believe how much money I made from such a small amount. I need to be able to capitalize on this opportunity if it comes to arise one more time. And so that's what happened to me. I was like, okay, I need to go fully into this and just start, studying day and night to prepare for if this ever turns around and we get another bull market again. And after hours of study, I was working on a side business with my friend. It was just a cleaning business, a commercial cleaning business. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna go full force into this while I'm grinding this out. AirPods in, listen to crypto talk, TA. Even if I can't look at the chart, just absorb as much as I can, and grind this business up, sell it, and then get that capital that I had lost in the last run and put it back into the market once I have some sort of foundational knowledge base. And ended up doing that in 2023, right before sort of the ETF pump that we had in 2023. And that ended up playing out really well for me, like getting back above 7 figures after that. And I had just spent, the last sort of 2 years studying. When I say studying, I mean like any waking second that I had that I was able to absorb knowledge, I was in private groups, 10 different private groups, asking questions, listening to podcasts while I'm driving, everything I could possibly do to prepare myself for, what's coming. And then from there, you know, learned pretty quickly, and yeah, ended up playing that part of the cycle pretty nicely. But I was mostly allocated into sort of altcoins and things like that, and started seeing all these meme coins pulling 1,000x's out of nowhere, and made a little rotation into that, and that's been sort of my main edge in this market moving forward. Meme coins.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a crazy last year or so, and the amounts that these trends pick up. I remember the last cycle. I was just learning about all of it. Didn't realize there were even cycles to be paying attention to. I thought it was just what was, and it would be a forever kind of thing. I remember buying into the metaverse, and I was like, "This is definitely going to be a thing in the next 2 years." That ended up not being true. Made a bunch of those kind of bets in the first few days. So in the first days, the early days. So I'm sure that those things definitely paid off in the long run, and not in terms of my bags, but in terms of just experience and being like, yeah, I've seen this before. I'm not falling for this, or I remember this happened last time. I remember, being 1900x up and not taking any profits. Like those are the things that you hopefully don't keep making. You don't keep making those mistakes, and that's how you level up. But real quick, I was going to say, I would love to dive into some of the charts and get some of your thoughts on how you look at charts, how you mark them up. You post lots of stuff, and so I'm sure a lot of people are curious. They're like, "Hey, what are the best strategies? How did you learn?" And things like that. And also, before you pull that up, for anyone who's watching the stream right now, welcome to the show. If you haven't already, definitely give Donny a follow. If you're on Twitter, just go to the title like right above our faces. If you're on YouTube, go to the description down below. Definitely give him a follow. And by the way, retweet the stream, quote tweet the stream, tag a friend, let people know that we're out here. And we're talking to Donny, talking charts, hopefully some meme coins as well. But Donny, I'll throw it back over to you. Let me know if you're able to pull up charts.
Yep, I'll just share my entire screen and just pull up Trading View.
There we go.
Is it all up and running?
It's coming up right now. Here we go. Yeah.
All right. So I'll give it just a little bit of like background as to how we got here on the Bitcoin chart. That's pretty important just to start off. I'll start from basically when the hype of the ETF started to come into place. I'll just mark out some dates as well. This was actually the day that the ETF went live for BTC, which is actually probably the most important date of this entire cycle. That's kind of what's given us this new demand for this asset class, and in my opinion, what could potentially change sort of the diminishing returns effect that you have typically in markets. Something like that is a true sort of theory. You have it with the stock market. The higher it goes, the higher the market cap goes, the less percentage per cycle it tends to gain. However, this is kind of like a pivotal point for Bitcoin and crypto overall. You've got Trump coming into office. Everything about that political party is pro crypto, and they're wanting to make America sort of the capital of crypto for the entire world. And you've got these ETF issuers like BlackRock marketing this product to the entire world, right? And the way they've done this marketing is very interesting. First of all, they release an ETF on the 11th of January and hype it up going into that date in sort of the worst global sentiment and crypto sentiment that we've had, of all time. You've literally got war being shown on every platform that you can see, on X, on Twitter, on Instagram, sorry, on TikTok, and they're shining the spotlight there while something in the background is sort of cooking for this new asset class. And I don't believe that these things are coincidences. When someone of that caliber, in terms of being a financial elite of the world, is essentially putting in the backbone of what the future is going to hold for digital money and all this kind of stuff, it's not a coincidence that it's in such a time where most of the world can't even afford groceries, let alone thinking to allocate into risk markets. And it was made pretty clear after that date. You have this sort of euphoric rally after, right? And then you get slapped into sort of a 7-month range, a 7-month reaccumulation period, right as the ETF came out. Now they spent from this date 300 days until we, broke out before after the election. 300 days accumulating this asset, and now they are some of the largest holders of Bitcoin in the world. Approaching the amount that Satoshi has in his wallet of 1 million BTC. So they release it in a period of time where no one can afford groceries. They're allocating heavily, and you then have a catalyst, that's pro crypto, pro markets, pro everything, seemingly right after a 300-day period of these people being able to allocate, to this landscape that they're setting up. And now you've got Larry Fink, marketing this thing to the rest of the world as a hedge against inflation. It's the best product for sort of that protection. And you have the reaction on the chart right after you get the confirmation of that pro crypto, pro market candidate winning the election. So yeah, that's kind of the context of how we got here. This range, this is where I'll dive into the technicals just a little bit more. You've got this, uptrend from that. I'll mark it off on the weekly chart. You've got this uptrend from the ETF hype all the way up to where we are now. So how you would verify an uptrend, just to keep it like super, super simple, you would want to have, two candles that are of the same trend next to each other, and the second candle being larger than the first, just indicating that there's momentum on sort of the chart in the way that the candles are behaving. So right here you've got two bullish candles, the second candle being larger than the first. The only way you change course is if you have the same thing but of the opposite trend. So right here you've got these two black candles, bearish candles. The second one being deeper than the first, you can mark that out as another corner, followed by two more. They don't have to be like right next to each other, right? You just don't change course until you have this next series of two candles. So this was your main like market structure heading into this 74K high. And the way you mark out sort of demand levels where certain areas are protected, you would take this corner of the market structure and pull down a box like this just to see where that demand zone lies, and you pull it across and see if these areas get protected or people are filling sort of orders at these levels. And you can see on our weekly market structure here, when we came up to the 74K high, after we had that capitulation event on August 5th with Japan's economy and all that kind of stuff, you came back down to the date of the ETF launch, which was 49K, where you left this crazy demand zone. Literally the wick was just tapping this sort of box. If you pull up futures charts and all these other different charts, you can see sometimes it tapped it, sometimes it just came shy of it. But yeah, these are sort of main areas where market makers, big whales, they've got limit orders protecting these zones because they are preparing for what's coming. They might have information of potentially what could be coming for this asset class, what's happening with certain events down the line, and they prepare the chart in a way where they get to fill their buys during FUD events and push the price up going into these bullish catalysts. So what you're looking for in this range that we got slapped in is you want to be looking for deviations of the range, either to the upside or the downside. So we had this range. Let me just pull up. We had this range after hitting the 74K high, from 74K to about 56, when we had this low over here. To confirm a range, you basically need to have on your uptrend, you have your initial range high, you come down to a low, and when buyers step back in and you've got that two candle rule we were just speaking about, you can pull your market structure again and confirm a new trend that has changed course from this high. So you came up with an uptrend, you start putting in lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. So now the trend has changed. In this range, once you have your initial range your initial range high and your initial range low, to confirm the range, you need to cross this midpoint, the equilibrium, to confirm that there is some sort of range formation forming. Now, when you have this confirmed range, the two main things you want to look for in any chart is, are you deviating the high? So are you coming up here? Or are you deviating the low? And
Mm-hmm.
whichever one you seem to be, pulling off, it's indicating to you that there's either a distribution going on. So people are buying in at the high, buying in from FOMO. Maybe there's bullish news catalysts. Typically, you do see bullish news catalysts. So people FOMO at the highs, while short positions are being filled by market makers and whales. So if you imagine sort of a sell wall above this zone, and you have people FOMO buying into it, these positions are being filled up for shorts.
Yeah, I think one thing people notice, like when I remember when I was learning how to trade during the bear market last year, I was like, so what is it about this whole thing with like I learned smart money and institutional candles. That's the things I was paying attention to, and so a lot of the setups looked like that, where you're ranging and then you're waiting for a break of structure, and then usually there's like a big fat candle that just wipes everybody out, and then we send the opposite direction, just like we're seeing right there. It's like you get wicked out.
Yeah.
I saw the same thing when I was trading Sad Boy token, which is a meme coin on Solana that is just crazy. And every time it looks like it bottoms out, it always hits the same. It always comes back to the same support line and then bounces every time. It's done it like 4 times now. So I've literally done the same trade 4 times and had the same exact results. It was actually so stupid. I was like, why are people not doing this? It just makes so much sense. But every time it does that move, it pushes down below where everyone thought this is the low for the local low. It always pushes right below that, and then it sends.
Yeah, typically you get these deviations depending on what sort of structure they're trying to create on the chart. So like, just to cut that bit short, you've got an uptrend, you have you get smacked down by some sells, you have your initial range high, you come down, buyers step in, you create a low. Once you cross this midpoint, you've confirmed a range. So now you're just looking if you're going to deviate the high to set up a distribution where they're filling shorts, or you're going to deviate the low and set up an accumulation because they're filling up buys. Typically you get FUD events, all the worst kinds of news. So people are selling at the low, retail selling low, and market makers and whales are filling up buys down at these levels to push price up. So you never got the deviation of the high in this range. If you can see, it's all wicks to the downside. And if you recall sort of the context that we had during this range, it was like the SEC is suing this company, Japan's economy is going under, whatever. There was like a bunch of bad news. There was like Iran fired a missile here. There was just constant war, constant FUD. And you get these capitulations at the low, but you're seeing these wicks to the downside. And you're getting that acceptance back into the range, indicating that there is some sort of accumulation going on. You also pair it with the context of, okay, we just had the ETF launch. Is BlackRock going to launch a failed product? No. Are you getting accumulation wicks to the downside? Yes. Who could be accumulating? Large players in the scene, and you just had the ETF issuers launch this product. So that was kind of the main thing to be watching in this zone. Once you had, this higher low confirmation after breaking market structure to the upside, that was kind of where you should have started getting bullish and looking for a continuation of that, higher highs and higher lows. And we just kept plugging those in. But the most interesting part was right before the election. You had this, brief sell-off period going into the election. I remember putting up a chart because there's so much to cover in like the Bitcoin chart and the whole sort of, global scene as to how all of this played out to this exact date. But I was pretty confident that, if Trump is the candidate for this and BlackRock is setting up an ETF, they know that he's the most bullish catalyst, or for markets, for crypto and everything. It's in their favor to make sure that, essentially, not to make sure that Trump wins because they don't control that, but maybe to push a narrative that you should be voting for Trump, to say the least. And I was pretty confident he was going to win just based off that, because market was de-risking going into that event. De-risking why? Because Kamala Harris was the other candidate. They were funding wars. They were, up until Trump started marketing crypto, they were very against crypto, for this entire sort of bear market that we had. So market was de-risking for that. And I knew in my gut, I was like, there is no way Trump is not going to take this victory. And you're
Mm,
going to see a mega reaction on the chart. The only reason people were selling going into this event was because of Kamala Harris.
mhm.
So yeah, I posted a fractal of um, Trump's Trump's election in 2016 with the IWM, the Russell 2000 low cap stocks, and you had the exact same setup. Literally like a 9% drop heading into the election. Trump wins the election, low cap stocks like blast all time highs. So yeah, I was kind of predicting that we would potentially see 100K in quarter 4 of 2024, and yeah, we ended up getting it, which was crazy. But
Wow. Wow. Yeah, man. I think a lot of people were not sure what to expect. I think a lot of
yeah,
people were like, "But this is a Southern news event, right?" And you're like, "Well, maybe." It's hard to know. Like usually, it's one of those when there's some more things up in the air. We're relatively certain he's gonna be president. So
yeah.
yeah,
I
dude.
mean,
That's really interesting.
yeah, if something is going to be a sell the news event, you need to have price trending up and having a hype catalyst so that people are buying the top. So a market maker or a whale can fill their position. So going back to the ETF launch date, you had the rumor of the ETF down here around
Yep.
middle of October, and then you get market trending up. They're pricing in that event already. The ETF launches, people are FOMO buying at the top, shorts are being filled, and you get smacked down. So yeah, we we're actually kind of getting the same sort of thing locally right now, which I'll jump onto that. This range, everybody's like concerned about it. I heard, at these lows that potentially the top could be in
Yeah, I
for
remember.
this cycle and this sort of thing. But now it is getting just a little bit like locally a bit tricky. I didn't
Mhm.
want us to pump to a new high above this 102K level, and come back up to deviate this initial range high that we had here, back to that market structure um, sort of rule. You've got market structure trending up all throughout here. You finally come up and get smacked down when we crossed 100K, and you deviate the high once, and now you're forming a little bit of a range here. You had some accumulation wicks, but now you're deviating this high one more time. So you've got that deviation one
Mm,
and the lower high, which I didn't want going into Trump's inauguration, because that is a bullish catalyst. It's a hype event, and they've been smashing out hype since this low going into that event, and price is starting to deviate the high again. This doesn't mean that you're going to top and go to 66K. It literally just means that price might jiggle around here until the date. People get super bullish because he's finally in office, and you just come back down to put in some sort of higher low in this range, or at the absolute worst, I think 86K 500. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like, I have a bullish bias because of how bullish like Trump is for this asset class and just markets in general. I hope we just rip straight through, but that is something that I'm watching.
yeah.
Um,
But what do you think
when we
about
had
this, real quick? So I've seen these are, albeit these are not traders, but you hear the Bitcoin spaces, right? There's a huge amount of wisdom from the Bitcoin spaces, but they're not traders. There's
yeah,
fundamentals around Bitcoin. There's certain aspects of Bitcoin that are special that stand out. But yeah, I really do think Bitcoin will be one of the top assets, if not the top asset of all time at some point. That doesn't
for sure.
mean, that we're never going to touch 100. I mean, I've seen so many streams saying this is the final 5-digit Bitcoin ever. And I'm like, dude, I love Bitcoin as much as you do, but that is just not true. I just don't believe that.
Yeah. There is some truth to that. I'll have to cover just a little bit
Oh,
of like
okay.
the stock market and what happened with the 2008 financial collapse. So
Mm,
this is what I'm saying earlier about without giving like crazy amounts of lore, because there's just so much like history behind money
mhm,
and how we've got into this point. But just going back to 2008, we had the financial collapse, and this sort of began the printing cycle as we know it. Now we've got this 4-year cycle that everybody's starting to pick up on, which tends to tie in with the 4-year election cycle and a bunch of other stuff. Interest rate hikes and cuts to manage this sort of debasement of currency. So from 2008, it essentially begins and is in hard stone. But the interesting thing was that in 2009, you had the Bitcoin white paper drop, seemingly right after this, big financial collapse. Now, to me, it seems, this could potentially be a back pocket sort of solution as to what's coming if you go back to 2009, as to what could be coming going into the 2020s, 2030s, whenever sort of uh, technological advancements get to a point where they don't want to stop kicking the can down the road because they're getting close to technological breakthroughs. Now we're seeing it with AI, this sort of thing. So all these bears that are calling for recessions and all these kind of things because the system is cooked, they're not actually wrong. However, you're either going to pay the price of debasing currency by 10 to 15% a year, or you're going to let this thing collapse and everyone goes through a 10-year depression where you reset this whole sort of system. But there's no need for that when you can just debase currency, keep printing money, keep managing inflation as best you can with interest rate cuts and hikes, and continue kicking the can down the road. So yeah, the Bitcoin white paper drops in 2009. Throughout all of this time, they've run the system as far as they can. And now they're selling the solution to this printing problem that they've created, right? You've literally got Larry Fink on interviews telling you if you're frightened, if you're worried about, inflation and your money not being secure and you want to protect yourself, look to Bitcoin, right? He had never been pro Bitcoin until they started talking about the ETF. After they fill their bags and then, they start marketing this thing to the world. And now you've got the potential for the people that actually move markets, institutions, countries, to enter this product, this asset class, for the first time in history. And that's where that increased demand comes in, that could potentially start this race to accumulate Bitcoin over time. So that's kind of the caveat there as to how potentially this could be the last time you see Bitcoin below six figures. But yeah, a lot of things need to line up with Trump's administration and all the adoption sort of things that they have going on for this asset class for that to play out. But
Yeah,
it's
well, I
all
think maybe
been
that's
laid
one of the
out.
things we're talking. Well, that was a great breakdown. But I think one of the things that the Bitcoiners conversation that I've heard is more so like in my head, I could see this. I see what you're saying. I think in their head, they're saying quite literally this week is the only time, as if because in my head, every single time there's a big announcement, doesn't matter how big it is, there's always a chance, and it almost always happens. They kick the can down the road. Whether that's 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months or 2-3 years, I don't know. But in my head, I was like, man, it's so hard to know. I'm like, is this truly the final week ever? As in
No.
January 23rd is the final day you can get Bitcoin under 100K. I'm like, that's tough because I'm like, I could see them saying, hey, we're going to do this. And then everyone's like, great. But then everyone, we've got a million shorts lined up for, 125,000 or whatever it is. And then we shoot down to 95 briefly. In my head, that's the kind of scenario I see happening. A lot of chop in and around the 100K range. So I was more talking about like in the very, very, very short term, like in the next 2 weeks, they were saying this is literally it. And I guess it is possible though, man, that was so tough. That one is so tough.
Yeah, like I said a little bit earlier, you're kind of setting up like a local distribution here, going into a hype event, which, if you're pumping price through hype, going into the actual catalyst, which is meant to be bullish, you're typically prone to a sell the news sort of event. But that doesn't mean that you're going to correct super low. The only other factor to consider is that the 1st of February, we have the FOMC meeting, which, that's the whole reason we got slapped into this range was the last FOMC meeting, the Fed spooked the market. And, now the market is unsure. And when you have this uncertainty, risk markets don't perform well. So you need that green light confirmation that, okay, they are going to stop quantitative tightening. Potentially, there will be some form of easing coming into the market. Interest rates will continue to go down, this sort of thing. And you won't get that confirmation until the 1st of Feb. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards, okay, we had this hype rally here. And now we're going into the inauguration. We could potentially, be setting up some sort of higher low. I think this low has a very good chance of being in, but we still don't have the green light confirmation for, you know, the economy, for everything to continue running higher until this date is out of the way.
Yeah,
So yeah,
okay. That's actually really interesting. Um,
yeah,
so I was actually curious. So when we're going through all this, there are some traders that we talk to in our spaces who have been trading for like 30 years. That's a pretty
jeez,
fascinating idea to me. Like for me, trading, at least in the very beginning, I got into the crypto markets via NFTs. It was pretty degenerate gambling. There was no sense of TA, zero sense of charts. I was just following FOMO, and of course, I lost all my money. And my friends, I was in Seattle, and I had a few friends who were day traders and stuff like that. And I ended up just like kind of shadowing them for like a year. And I learned that it's pretty much like two things. It's basically down to risk management. And can you view this as a skill set rather than can I make money this year? Like if you just imagine trading, and like imagine you have one good year of trading where you figure it out. And then you say, oh, wait, I forgot I can do this every single day forever. And there are
yeah,
so many people I've met who have been trading for 25, 30, 40 years. And they're like, yeah, dude, I've been trading every day. It's just what I do. It's just an extra thing on the side I did for like 10 years. And then eventually I was like kind of close to retiring, but I had this other side gig. I was making enough money. So I just quit and now I just trade. And I was just like, dude, that is so important. So anyways, I was like, that's all mindset. Like, what are the mindset tricks that you picked up over the last couple cycles and some of the things you've learned? Because I feel like mindset is so important because you can get bogged down in the short-term time frames. You might not zoom out on your own life in the same way that you zoom out on the charts, So I'm curious on some of the things you picked up, especially for those traders who are in, probably their first year of trading. A lot of people are going to be entering the market, just have no experience.
yeah. I would say, in terms of mindset and stuff like that, it kind of just happens over time. The way that I like to do anything in life is like kind of throw myself in the deep end. So when I tried to onboard friends into this market in the early days, they would put in like $20, $50, whatever. And like you have absolutely no attachment to that money. Therefore, you don't really care enough to like learn about it. Whereas for me, it was kind of the opposite. I had to put in like a little bit more, which was valuable to me at the time. So that now I'm like worried in a sense about like getting it wrong and things like that. So I can be a little bit more dedicated just starting off, right? The mindset tends to shift as you learn risk management and all this kind of thing. I'm not saying to just like throw your money into a meme coin and then be like, oh shit. But like, put something into some of the top 10 that is a decent amount of money for you, and just try and like learn from there, because you're just going to have that attachment to that money and be like, okay, I really don't want to lose this. I want to make sure that I'm like doing the right thing. And before you even allocate that money, you're probably going to be looking at YouTube videos, little TA tutorials, people giving you what coins they're buying, and then you do the research on those coins, so you make sure you get your investment right. That's kind of what helped me start, because if I were to put $50 into a coin or something like that, I would just leave it there, check the chart probably once a week or whenever it's going green, and then not really care. So to get started, that's how I like to start. From there, you definitely want to build an understanding, like fundamentally, about cycles and how money works. That does take time, but your best friend nowadays is that you've got the internet, where information is democratized. You've got podcasts of some of the brightest like brains in the world discussing all of these topics that you're interested in, and you get to hear these conversations for hours and hours a day. People used to like go out of their way to try and get into these rooms. They would pay, they would do anything they could to meet these people and just chat with them, and now you just get it from a click of a button. So you just have to utilize what's already there. The way I learned about like macro and all this kind of stuff is just literally through podcasts or people on YouTube that are bright, absorbing all their content and moving on to the next guy. Take all the good nuggets from them, move on to the next guy, and you build this system and framework in your head to where you can start playing these markets how you view them based on all of the information you've studied. And yeah, in terms of like technicals, everyone has their own system. For me, I started off with the typical system of like, I don't even know what it's called, but people draw like support boxes and things like that. I moved to smart money concepts through meeting a couple of really good traders on X. Um, Wyckoff Insider is the first person that I met. He taught me a lot of this, smart money stuff that I hadn't been exposed to before. I was still able to pick out, how charts are gonna play out, but this gave me, a robust sort of system that I can play for my entries and exits and certain things I need to look out for to really like make sure that I'm getting the correct entries and exits. And
Dude,
his
that's so
friend,
cool. That's the
his
way.
friend, yeah, his friend as well, Lars Koistra on X. Make sure you follow those two. They're really good. Some of the best sort of technical analyst purists that I've seen. They're just full TA sort of guys, and they've really got that down to a T. And you can have the best technicals in the world and all that, but you really do need to make sure you understand fundamentally what's going on with the cycle or the given asset that you're allocating to. So just spend as much time absorbing info in this space if you really want to take it seriously. There's just no way around it. Like if you put 10,000 hours in, you're gonna become a beast. It's literally that
Mm,
simple, And
wow.
there's genetic variance to how quickly people absorb certain info and stuff, but in general, you put in 10,000 hours over, a few years, you're gonna become a monster at anything.
Wow. Yeah, dude, that's interesting. You said you switched over to smart money as well. That was the first thing I learned. I followed this guy named Mike Nav, and he streamed every single day for like 2 years his trading, and he was like professional. He was, I mean, obviously he didn't win every single trade, but he was good enough to where he stayed employed as a trader to stream on this whatever platform it was, and you could watch it in real time. Like, does this guy actually know what he's talking about, or is he guessing? Is he dumping on his followers? Like, what's the deal here? But I also learned smart money. It just made sense to me. It was a very simple explanation, and after a couple of explanations and just sort of trying to pinpoint the pattern, I was like, wait a second. So what other patterns do I need to know? They're like, well, you don't have to. They're like, you can. He goes, the way we do it, they were doing more forex than anything, but they were like, yeah, the way I do it, he's like, I just have like my 10, 15 charts that I kind of check, all the time, and I just look for those patterns there. If I don't see it, I move on to the next one. And I was like, wait, but like, don't you want to take a trade? And he was like, well, you're not thinking about it correctly. He's like, you need to think of it as like a skill set and a mindset you're building. And once you see it, you want to build that muscle of, oh wait, there's the structure, there's the play. Let me enter the trade. Let me set my stops. Let me take the profits. It's that part. It's the experience of actually clicking the trade, getting into it. Setting your take profits, setting your sell stops and things like that. And you're right, dude. Just doing those a lot pays off. I know for a fact because during that bear market, I spent a lot of time marking up charts, and I was like, dude, this is it. This is like not even that bad. If I just kept doing this, this would make a lot of sense in about a year. Unfortunately, I went all in on content a few months later, and so now I have no time. But it's something that I really want to get back into, especially when the market corrects and we go back the other direction at some point and we start doing a lot of bearish stuff for a few years. I'm sure it will
Yeah.
happen at some points. And during that time, there's no reason to not be trading. It's just if you're confident enough on if you can short and if you can read the charts.
Yeah. And when the market slows down like that and goes bearish, it's a really good time to learn and like actually open
Absolutely.
up these leverage accounts and short the
Yes.
market and all that. Prepare your skill set for the bull run. Cause like in a bull run, man, it's just so fast paced. You got coins flying left and right. You don't know really where to look.
Mm, yeah,
But
dude.
yeah, just having like a solid framework, whatever sort of trading style you use, smart money concepts, whatever. Um, just having that down to a T and executing it without any emotion. You get your confirmations, you play them. There is no like, oh, I'm gonna do this slightly varied from what I've been learning because I think it's gonna change based off like your gut feeling or something like that. You just have to treat it like you're an AI almost and just execute it that
Mm,
way because if you start deviating from the plan you're not going to have that consistency that you need to be profitable over time. Like it might work out if you vary a few times here and there, but then like you haven't built that robust system that you can play out over many months and years.
dang, very cool.
Yeah.
Also, I was going to say, I'm sure some people have tuned in. They're trying to see some fart action. I
Oh
wonder if
yeah.
there's anything to pay attention to on those charts. You got anything?
Bro, this coin, man, I called this
Wait,
coin.
first explain what happened here. What even happened? Why is this sending? And what
the-
happens now that it's correcting a little bit?
yeah. um this is where my true skill lies in the market. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it might just be an overall understanding of just I guess maybe business and just being able to see things. But like even before I knew how to chart anything, I was just able to pick projects that potentially, were the next runners or could do like crazy numbers just purely off fundamental analysis alone. And like obviously fundamental analysis sounds funny when you're talking about farts, fart coin. But I ended up calling this in my Discord group around 350K market cap. And last night I hit 90 million. I made the post on X around like 2 million, 1.8 million market cap. And it's just very interesting to see the chart develop over time to such a monster. And like, this
Wow.
entire time, people were kind of fading it and being like, what's the narrative? Why do we need a derivative of the Solana coin on base? And I was just like, yeah, I dropped maybe 100 to 200 posts explaining it over and over and giving the alpha and the TA. But that's what leads to this exponential curve is people, as price is going up, people start realizing, okay, wait, it actually does make sense. But the
Wow.
main thing was that you've got this monster, right? Filecoin on Sol, which originated from Goat, essentially. Goatius Maximus, the AI agent. This thing ended up flipping Goat in market cap. That's what created this extreme speculation. And, one of the most talked about points in crypto that I've seen since like Doge. Like this thing was literally on, financial TV streams and all this kind of stuff. Like
What? It
fully,
was?
yeah, bro. It was featured
How
on
did
a
I miss
bunch of
this?
shows. Yeah. Um, I'm not a US native or anything like that, so I don't know, what the shows are called and stuff. I remember seeing them all over X.
Wow.
These, market analysts and stuff talking about Fartcoin, how it's so ridiculous, and it comes back down to the roots of crypto. It's so ridiculous that it just keeps going up. The more they cope on live TV, the higher it goes. I remember Doge. They're like, look how stupid, with this crypto asset classes. You have this dog going to these stupid valuations. The more they coped, the higher the price went. And like you're having that you're having that playbook being run again through this one. And the craziest part was, like I mentioned before, it flipped the alpha of the trade, Gotius Maximus, by a big margin and became this global narrative. So when I saw this coin launch on Base, I was like, okay, maybe it's just another Base derivative token. But I went on their X page and you instantly start seeing there's a big difference in the content if you scroll down these two X pages and really look at the memetics side of things. Like Filecoin is just what Gotius Maximus, the agent, released um, into the blockchain. So it's just an AI meme token. It doesn't really produce any actual content. Now, if you go on the Filecoin page, they've got like, funny worded memes. They've got their whole vocabulary changed, incorporating the word like fart and beans. And like they've built this entire brand around the meme side of thing where that's really capturing, a massive community behind it because there's just unlimited funny memes that you can post about farts essentially. And they never capitalized on it. So they left this opening of like, okay, if a coin comes in and they start producing crazy meme content, it could potentially catch eyes and build a community and grow. And it just so happens to be on base chain, giving it that sort of brand of being based fart coin because it's actually producing content. It's not something that was spawned by AI. And yeah, the chart ended up playing out sort of a one-to-one with Filecoin on Sol, but just outperforming with every wave that it was having. So I think it launched on the 16th. Yeah, I've got it marked here on this chart on the 16th. I'll just pull up this one. Let me just move this stuff across. Yeah, that's when it launched. Oops. I'll just try and make it look as equal as possible on the 4-hour chart.
And by the way, is there
Yeah, so
anything on like? Actually, no. Never mind. I'll let you get to the end of this segment.
yeah. So yeah, Filecoin was putting in like higher highs, capturing that mind share. I think it ran up to like, what is this? 1.3 billion. And Filecoins on base sort of made that first wave up to 7 million. And then, you had the pullback going all the way back down to like 500 mil. Filecoin also pulls back down to 2 mil. So it was starting to act like a 1-to-1 price action beta. And you've had a bunch of these 1-to-1 betas play out. You had Pepe and Brett, you had Giga and Sigma. It's like, it's endless, it's everywhere. When you have like an alpha, people want like the next thing, the next thing. So charts end up getting molded to each other if they're in the same narrative. You then had a pump here on the 24th of December, pumping all the way back to new all-time highs, right? But you couldn't break this high. You never got the structure break to the upside. But on Fartcoin on base, you see down there on the dates from the 24th, you start blasting through after, this one leads the way, and you blast to a way higher high. Why? Because it's an undervalued asset in the same narrative. The high was only 7 million relative to, 1.2 billion. Typically a beta, like a price action beta, it'll capture at an absolute minimum, even if it's like a horrible beta that doesn't really have a strong sort of mental mindshare narrative, it'll capture 5% of that value. And if this thing was going to go to, if just for ease of numbers, if it's 1 billion market cap and something captures 5% of that, that's 50 mil market cap. So even as a low price action beta, this thing should be able to capture 5%. And just on this sort of relief rally that we had here with no new all-time high on Filecoin on Sol, this one puts in a crazy new all-time high of like 30 million from the low. So it still didn't capture 5%. That's only 3% of like 1 billion, let's say. And this was actually 1.3 at the top. So you didn't even capture 3% yet. So I was just watching, the pair charts and just being like, okay, with every wave up, this coin is going to outperform because it's just so undervalued in terms of market cap, and it's going to capture more percent of Filecoin on Sol with each wave up that it has. And I know this is here to stay because it's like about to flip names like WIF, all these other great coins that emerged from the Solana ecosystem while Solana is in a downtrend. Like all of this price action was while BTC had topped from this FOMC local distribution that we had on the 17th of December. You remember I said Filecoin on base launched on the 16th. Literally, market went in a downtrend for 30 days from there, and the only thing going up was the fart economy, as we call it now. Fart's going up, market going down, and yeah, after this sort of relief rally, you had another downtrend on Filecoin on Sol. What happens here? You have the same thing. All the dates line up. You get this reaccumulation period. You've got wicks to the downside, more accumulation. Same thing here. Just like how we were discussing with ranges earlier. Let me just clean this up so it looks nice. You had a local range. Oh, whoops. You had a local range forming on the chart. You have your initial range low, your initial range high. You've got these deviations of the range, and then you get the market structure break back to the upside here, and you hold it and shoot up higher. What happens to the Filecoin on base chart? Pretty much the same sort of price action, and then you smash out into a way higher high again. Literally exactly what happened here. And it's only because it's undervalued in terms of market cap, and it's outperforming them in terms of content. You've got like some of the funniest memes that I've seen in all of crypto, essentially, coming out of this project. Like there was one that just killed me. Like memes like this, they're so simple. Nancy Paloopsy, like as in oopsie, she dropped one.
There's no way, dude. Oh my god, it's so tough because
Like,
there's so many. Wait, can I ask you one super quick question? Because I feel like this is like an appropriate time to ask. So there's so many of the coins that come out, right? The one thing that like even myself sometimes I trip over is there are so many tokens that are the exact same name, and sometimes I'll put even the contract address in, and 3 options come up. What does that mean sometimes when there's like 3 of the exact same thing that pop up? Are you screwed in that same? Do you just guess, or like what happens when you're if a new person comes in, they're like, which one do I buy? They're all the same.
Yeah,
You
you want to
Like,
make sure first you visit their Twitter and things like that. Typically they have like a contract address somewhere. Yeah, see, they've got it in their bio here. You would just paste that, and if you go into your swap protocol or whatever, you want to paste this address in the swap screen so you make sure you get the right token, right? And then you can also verify it by going on Dick Screener and clicking copy address here, and you'll get that same address that you know, is in their bio or whatever. But the main thing is you want to, if you're seeing this as like a signal from somebody else, you want to look at the chart, of course, when you click on the actual token, see that the chart matches the chart that you're seeing on X or whatever, and then copy the address and paste it in.
Got it.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's just like the other one doesn't post anything because it's just like an AI token. Like there's no memes coming out of that. And yeah, this is where like this one stands, like Vladimir Putin, bro. Like that's ridiculous. And it's like a GIF. So yeah, when you've got something that's actually like, you know, building a humorous brand and all this kind of stuff, the community just raves and they just post more memes and they're raiding and all this kind of stuff. And it makes it very easy to build a community and, you know, start outpacing that way higher market cap token. And that's essentially what's going on here. If you're bullish on like Filecoin on Sol, you just can't help but be bullish on Filecoin on Base, especially now that it's proven that it's acting as a one-to-one price action beta, but just an outperforming version because of the divergence in market cap size. So that's basically the thesis behind this token.
Dang.
I think
that was
like
a full breakdown, dude.
Yeah, bro. And like this is the thing is I think I have a pair chart here as well. Let me just pull it up. This will solidify it in anyone's head that's like, you know, contemplating what could happen. So this is an actual pair chart of, you know, a percentage based market cap ratio between Filecoin on Base and Filecoin on Solana. It essentially tells you how much percent of the value is being captured, like we spoke about earlier. If it goes to 1 billion and this one captures or runs up to 70 million, that'll be around 7% of the value captured. Now, if you run some fibs on this pair chart, you can see, you know, first of all, it's like getting breakouts, you know, to bullish, and it just keeps putting in higher highs. You're already approaching the 1.618, where like, you know, fib extensions, the 1.618 and the 2.618, they're like the most back tested fib extensions. And I would say out of any analytical tool, you run them back on like anything, these hit. And you're already approaching the 1.618 around 7%. Last night's rally, it came to like 6.5%. You're already coming to test this 1.618, indicating that, you know, if we do go into a bull run, if Sol goes into all-time highs, if Ethereum goes into all-time highs, and everything is, you know, turning out to be bullish, Bitcoin dominance going below 54%, having a full breakdown, liquidity flowing into the rest of the market, this is likely to approach this 2.618, 28% value captured of the Filecoin on Solana. So people are calling for targets 10 billion, 20 billion for Filecoin on Sol, which I think is actually reasonable. If Solana's, you know, on the cusp of an ETF and is sitting around 200, 250, it can easily 3x from that level, right? If Ethereum's going to 2x from 3.5K or even slightly less than 2x, some people are a bit bearish on that, you're still going to get the smaller market cap altcoin Solana to a 3x to 700. So a $700 Solana, while Filecoin's been performing like insanely well, like while Sol is way below all-time highs and in a downtrend, you can imagine when the market conditions flip that token is easily going to pull, you know, a 5x, which is only just a bit more than the actual L1 Solana doing a 3x. So, you know, it almost touched 2 billion. If Solana's going to do a 3x, this will probably do a 5x to 10 billion. It'll do more, but I'm being conservative. You know, that's 10 billion market cap. If you capture 28% of that value on Filecoin on Base, you're getting to 2.8 billion market cap. Because you literally can't fade like the actual one-to-one chart that you've got going on here. If Filecoin's going to go up on Solana, this is just going to outperform. It's literally just, you know, numbers and logic.
Yeah, dude, and there are a few. I mean, you mentioned there are a few other coins. I mean, you're just trying to catch on to narratives and stuff like that. Are there like, how do I say this? Who are the right people to follow? I guess in some of these ecosystems, like how do you know when you find out something and it's actually early? especially
Yeah.
in this kind of meme coin era where it might just be a lot of nuance because there's so many smoke and mirrors. There's so many, hey, look at
No, I
this
agree.
instantly they're selling kind of thing. Like, how do you know when you're getting alpha versus just getting cooked and just being, the bag
It's
is being sold
very
on your head?
it's very tricky because if you think of any industry, right? Let's take fitness as an example. The fitness industry, before fitness was really popular, you had like, a few sort of big names that were giving good advice on how to train, how to get, in shape and all this kind of stuff. And as that industry grows, you get this dilution of influencers and teachers to where there's so much information being pushed out that it's very hard to, differentiate which information is correct and which information is, wrong essentially. It's the same with crypto. As the industry grows, you're going to have more people creating X accounts, more people trying to become influencers, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. So it actually gets harder over time to pick out, the actual good traders and smart analysts in the market than it was maybe like one cycle or two cycles ago. There was probably like a few big names that were consistent, things like that. And now there's so many. And like you do find like gym accounts at very low follower numbers, like sub 5K, even sub 2K sometimes, really good traders, but it's just very hard to pick out. And it can only come over time of like you understanding the concepts yourself and also, watching people's track records. You really like people do have very short attention spans. If you're going to study my page, like don't just look at the last 10 tweets. Why don't you look at the last 3 months or 6 months and see if I've been correct? Like literally spend the time to study someone's page. But I can give some good shout outs to people that, I always consistently learn from. Max, I'll show you his page, Max, because Bitcoin. This guy's an absolute beast. He put me on his show way back, pretty much started my whole
Oh,
X
these are the
career.
guys from Because Bitcoin.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the Because Bitcoin team.
Yeah. Love
It's
these
the
guys.
main
Awesome.
dude. Super accurate trader, very easy to read charts, like just tells you exactly what's going to play out with like very minimal sort of thinking. It's very good for people coming into the market to just lay it out so visually clean, so they can see sort of what's going to play out and stuff. Max is really good. I'll just show Wyckoff Insider as well. This is the dude who was teaching me how to use smart money concepts. Really good analyst as well. And also Lars as well. They're like best friends. They trade the same structures and this sort of stuff. Make sure you're following these 3 accounts, I would say. And me, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And
If you're listening, if you're watching the stream, give Donny a follow. He's literally right there in the title. You can just click one button and you can be following this guy.
Yeah. But for meme coin narratives, we are in a cycle where it's very rotation heavy. So it's actually very hard to find plays like this, right? I literally have a basket of about 5 memes that I've allocated maybe 50% of my portfolio into.
Whoa.
Because there's so many memes to choose from, but there's so few that have like strong staying power and a strong enough narrative that like holders have that vision of what's to play out if the cycle were to play out and Ethereum goes to all-time highs and all this kind of stuff. It's not kind of like a flavor of the week sort of play. You want to be mostly allocated to plays like that, but there is very few of them, So, my main sort of, I would say 3 plays at the moment would 4 plays, because I have to include AI, would be base Filecoin, of course. I really think this has legs with what I explained earlier of Solana at all-time highs, ETH at all-time highs. You've got ETH BTC at literally capitulatory lows, and this thing is pushing 100 mil. Imagine when this actually pulls a rally off, what kind of inflows you're going to get into base and all that kind of stuff. So this is a really big one for me. Andy and Wolf are a really big one. They're on here. If I pull up a chart of like Pepe, Ethereum, and Andy, you'll see what I've been explaining of like direct one-to-one price action beta. If Ethereum has a slight bounce in the market, you'll see a slight bounce on Andy. If and the same with Pepe. Pepe leads these smaller market cap tokens, but it's just a sure bet. Whereas like if you're bullish on ETH, you're by default now bullish on Pepe, and you're by default bullish on Andy. So those are like safe picks that you can, you know, as safe as you can get essentially in the meme coin sector of actually having a high probability of playing out and you not being susceptible to people like rotating out of that coin to chase something else because it's a solidified narrative. So yeah, Filecoin, Andy, and Wolf as well. It's the same, just further down the risk curve than Andy, Wolf OX67.
And that is everybody for watching. That is the official Wolf. I'm kidding. Not the. We have no affiliation. Unfortunately, we would probably be rich if we were, but unfortunately not us.
Yeah. And yeah, this is the same thing as just lower down the risk curve. So it's, you know, lower in market cap, potentially can yield higher gains on the upside. And they're just linked to Ethereum. And then I've got Memes AI as well. This is one I've been accumulating since, I've actually been in this since 300K, but it's one of my favorite, sort of AI agents that if that sector does tend to play out how I think it might going into, you know, Q1, Q2 potential alt season, I think this will be a big winner. And yeah, those are like the main plays that I'm stacking. And then you've got like a trading bag that I always like to leave on the side around 5 to like 15, maybe 20% cash position, just in case I see a nice flavor of the week that I can, you know, trade, get in early, get out. Because, you know, there's a lot of opportunities with these rotations.
Wow, dude. This, I don't know how we did it, but we quite literally wrapped the stream up in like perfect time. This was such a nicely wrapped ending. So it's almost like you're a professional streamer, or you need to be, or something like that. But Donny, dude, thank you for just kind of walking me through your thesis, your strategy, some of your mindset. And then I got to even tap into a little of the meme coin. I honestly like have been so degen for so long, and then this year just not as much as I almost want it to be. So it's kind of cool to get a bit of a layout of some of these bigger coins out here as well before we kind of hopefully take off here for the rest of the year. But dude, just want to say thank you so much for coming on, and for anyone who's listening and watching, please give Donny a follow. He comes on our spaces sometimes as well. Hopefully we'll get him on for many more in the future. Dude, I really appreciate having you on. And yeah, I mean, come back anytime, but thanks for coming on, brother. If there's anything you want to leave the audience with, I'll let you have the final say.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. You know, I haven't done too many of these streams, so you know, you can have the best technical analysis in the world and all this kind of stuff, but to actually like be a teacher and like educate your audience is a whole skill on its own. So I'm still developing in that sense. So I'm just keen to do more streams like this and, you know, start teaching people what I know and hopefully, you know, give them some good value over time. So yeah, be looking out for more streams from me. And yeah, hope you guys learned something today. Hope it was useful.
Yeah, man, 100%. All right, everyone, we'll see you on the next one. We have a space starting in 1 minute, actually, at Wolf, talking about the NFT market. I need to get all the alpha. It's not enough for these meme coins. So we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.